back in a different form anyway. David Miles joins me firstly. Hello, Milesy.
G'day, Paulie. How are you?
Very good. We're here in Monagita. Might have had a comment last week with you about God's country. Monagita definitely ain't it, is it? It's very cold here today.
Pleurisy Plains, mate. Yeah, we've got the south wind howling and only the needy and the greedy here today.
Wouldn't worry you though, would it? Firstly, congratulations on a very, very successful trip to Menangle.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, no, it's pretty easy to bounce out of bed and work horses this week. So, yeah, thanks to our little stable star Lucy. She's been a godsend, and she was super last week.
Rockingwithattitude we're talking about, and it's been a whirlwind, I suppose, time for connections. Her racetrack return was only 2 weeks ago. Returns with a Group 1 win for a start. Mighty training performance.
Yeah, I probably can't take too much credit. She's so easy to train. She doesn't take a lot of work. She's super athletic. Just sort of take her to the trials and the races and just keep her ticking over at home. So as long as she's healthy and she's sound, she's got high speed and that gives me the advantage to drive her any way I want.
Had she, how many trials had she had?
She had 3. First one was really good. Second one, she got a bit lumpy on the last corner. She didn't trot so great. Just had a bit of chiropractor work, and thanks to John Harland, he sorted her out. And then she went to Melton, and she trialled pretty good. She beat Copacabana, who only an hour before the Oaks come out and ran a great second at Melton, which, you know, sort of going into that Oaks race, I went, yeah, it's okay. The trial form stood up. So, yeah, no, she had the 2 serious trials, and as I say, she's super athletic. You don't have to do a lot with her at home.
Menangle's unique. Unfortunately, here in Victoria, we don't have a track that can even remotely replicate it. Was that a worry for you?
Not the circumference, but I have taken a couple of trotters there that the surface has given them a little bit of grief. It's a little bit more slide in that track. We know with the paces, we sort of changed their shoes a little bit to give them a little bit more grip. And it's always hard changing trotters, especially baby trotters. So we actually just went pretty much as standard, and I sort of said to the owners, we'll know 50 metres after the start in the first race in the Oaks whether she's going to handle the surface or not, and she handled it, no worries.
And she just seems, watching, and we'll talk about like the actual Oaks itself, but that gate speed in both races, like it's her greatest attribute. But when you actually watch her, like it's the way that she comes out of the mobile, and I know it's probably going to sound a bit silly, she just seems to lift higher than the other horses and extend those feet further. It's not necessarily she's going faster. It's just when the mobile first releases, she has this almost different gait, if you like, to what she has at the end of the race, which is very workmanlike.
It's like a pacer's gate speed.
Yeah.
You know, she, as soon as she hears the roar of the engine, she just goes. And, you know, she doesn't have to run the gate, but it's such an advantage to be in front in juvenile trotting races because you're out of all the trouble. And the fact that she's got plenty of bottom to her, you know, I think it's been widely recognised that the Breeders' Crown race where she was taken on and then still had the audacity to run second, you know, most horses would have dropped out, but it's sort of given us a little bit of bluff, if for want of a better word, that, you know, guys don't come looking because I'm not handing up. So they're going to sort of put it to the sword, but are they going to, you know, kill themselves doing it?
It's unique though. You mentioned that race and the tenacity she showed to run second. We've all seen a lot of horses over the journey that have done that, but then that race has ruined them.
Yep.
They don't, whereas it hasn't seemed to have affected her. She hasn't missed a beat about that one race.
No, she hasn't, and it was a big effort coming out of that, going to the next race, and people would be majorly surprised that I think from about late July, August, all the way through to December, she didn't do any fast work at home. All she did was just trot strong every day and have a swim, and even after that race the key was to not overdo it. We know she's quick, we know she's got speed, we don't need to find it at home, but it's been tough. There have been a couple of times where I've gone, oh, maybe she does need a hobble, and she hadn't had a hobble at home between those 3 trials either, from the 3 trials leading up to the Oaks. So she's very efficient, and not only in her gait and her speed, but she's also very efficient in her work.
We might actually try and do a driver's view, either with the trials or something, with her one day very shortly, and just so people can get I suppose, an appreciation of her gait and that as well is not something that we will do going forward. As I said, here leading up to, she's going to Queensland, so maybe a bit of if Brad Steele's watching, he can send me a few dollars, we'll do a promo for that. No, I won't, no, we'll just do it. But but just to show people the gate, because it is a unique thing. It's what I love about Trotters. It's why I love talking Trotters. It is a lot reliant on their gait, because her physique, she's a beautiful horse in a way to look at, but she's not strong, she's not big, but she's not small. She's just a horse, if that makes sense, but she's just a ripping horse, isn't she?
Yeah, there's nothing special about her. You could line her up against a dozen of other horses here in the barn and you'd pick them over her. She's got big ears and she's got a long skinny neck but she's just got a great powerful hind end and obviously got a lot of heart and lung capacity because she's got plenty of bottom to her. That'd be great. We could do that. She'll have a few trials leading up to Queensland because there's every chance she won't race before the Great Square. We'll just trial her. So
we might do a couple of those and give people an understanding. Right, let's go back to the Oaks. You probably got away with a little bit of larceny once you got to the front, halfway around that first turn. It's a funny thing, the 2,300 metre races at Menangle. You had 2 of them, but generally you work out of the gate. There's not a lot left for the horses. But you said there before they almost gave it to you sort of halfway around that first, or the last turn as it is, but the first turn you were going into to halfway up the home straight. Going down the back straight though, you were quite happy on a horse that hadn't raced for 4 months, and you were quite happy just to let her start striding. She just must give you a great confident feel. She's
actually feels like she's going slower than what she actually is. She's actually quite deceiving, and if anybody that's driven at Menangle, you feel like you're going slower anyway. So, especially in the first race, I felt like we were walking, and I was, really panicking that somebody was going to come and have a look at me. But it just felt like we were going so slow, which Menangle does for us Victorian drivers anyway when she gets to the bigger track. And then again, she just feels like she's walking. But the main issue with her, as you'll see, she wears that little nose veil and the underdraw just to stop her from shying at things. And there was plenty for her to look at. And being fresh first up, she was quite gawky, for want of a better word. She had a good look at the cages off the back. I was going to say, because they to me look daunting. And when you're saying that was the first thing, and you hear I forgot the name of the race caller there, which was Fred Hastings. Fred Hastings quite often says they get to the cages, and you quite often see the odd horse do the odd thing when they get to the cages, and they can't do it any better. It's what they've got, their big drain there to get rid of the water. But it does look quite daunting. There's a big lot of mesh. It actually, because the back straight fence is so low there, you've just got this feeling that the track's 20 carts wide rather than the 10 that it is. But then as those cages, which are very, very high, it just feels like everything narrows up, and you can understand why a horse the first couple of times they've been there. It's probably lucky it was at night. During the day, I think it'd probably be a bit more daunting again. But it was just a matter of not letting her shy. And then when we turned for home and the death seat all sort of dropped off a lot, she just wouldn't pick the bit up and go. And it wasn't until Nathan Jack's horse and the Pangrazzi horse got outside me and got to a number, and she went, okay, time to go now. So it was a perfect first up run for her. We talk about being a first up in a Group 1, but it's probably the easiest Group 1 she'll win, I would have thought. No, you said about Pangrazio's horse. One went terrific. Well done to those guys as well. The Victorians, I think 1, 2, 3 from memory. Yep, in the Oaks. Were you worried? Because I'll be honest, I was hosting the VSTA Awards night, and I had to make sure I had a spot to watch that. And I sort of told Connections, because you'd won the Trotter of the Year, 2-year-old Trot and Filly of the Year, and I sort of said to Connections, I expect the roof to be lifted. There was no roof lifting until you hit the line. Were you at all worried at any stage that Nath might have got you? From about the 300 to the 150, where she wouldn't pick the bit up and go, she was too busy pricking her ears and looking at a lot of things. If Nathan had a dive bomb, we might have been in a bit of trouble. But as soon as Nathan got to her crossbar and then got to probably her tail, she just picked the bit up then. And actually the last 50 yards was probably the easiest. Before that, there was just a little bit of, go on, sweetheart, pick the bit up and get tracking. And she was a little bit the same in the Derby, but it was more the last 50 metres where she'd sort of run away from Malzadel and got feelings, But the Derby, so we'll go on to the Derby, but I think congratulations. And as I said, I think, it's terrific. It was 2 Group 1s in a row for her. Going into the Derby, did you give yourself a live chance? Like, how was your confidence level going into the Derby? Yes, super. The only thing that I was a little concerned with was I wasn't sure how good Anton and Nathan's horse was. He'd been super impressive down here, and he'd been a little bit untapped, so I just wasn't quite sure how good he was. As far as the Sydney horses, the Victorian horses have generally got a little bit of an advantage. They're just generally a bit stronger, a bit more seasoned. Ricky Elton's horse obviously got a lot of ability, but he hadn't been trotting as good as he did as a 2-year-old. London to a Brick, Jimmy Rattray's horse, I was pretty confident I could get across him, and then whether he could outsprint me or not, or I let him out, that was probably the game plan going into the race. If he's on my back, he's the one that I've got to not let out, because he did sprint quick in a 55 there. Yep. I think at his third win up there. But yeah, she was as good as the Colts last year. She probably ran a little bit quicker. We raced the Locomotive once or twice, and I think it was about 1-1, something like that. But I wasn't super concerned about the Colts being way better than her, and the gate speed she's got. Once you find the fence, it's then a matter of them sitting outside us. And Anton's horse did a good job. He made a blue. He got up outside us, and then he got a bit rocky the last 100 and made another break. But I think he's going to be a top rated horse.
Nathan Strive probably helped you a little bit too, because whether he could have or not, but Jimmy had no chance of getting out because Nathan was like, well, I'm going to run second, and made sure he couldn't get out around your wheel anyway, which did help, but I don't think he would have beat you.
Jimmy's horse actually galloped, and it finished up being the Kiwi filly Melzadel in behind the leader. Yeah. So Jimmy's horse had a gallop when going into the first bend, and I think he'll be a lovely big looking horse, and Better's Delight Trotter, which I love. I've had a couple of them, so I think he'll be a serious horse going forward. But Anton's horse, I think once he's had 20 runs under his belt, he'll be a top liner.
Yeah, your filly though obviously handled it all well. I've actually seen her this morning. She looks like she's bounced back pretty good. Yeah,
she's taken no harm at all from it. A little bit different this year. We usually go up and back. With the horses, I like to get them home. I don't mind driving overnight, and everybody tells me I'm mad, but we generally like leaving straight after the races and bring them home and have them in their own boxes. But she has to go to Queensland this year. It was her first trip, so we decided to stay for the week. Had to put up with the shenanigans at Hancock Farm, which is always great. It's if anybody gets stress training horses, they need to go and spend some time at Richard and Darren's, because you will de-stress in 10 minutes. It is the most relaxing place to be. It's horse heaven, and they can't do enough for you. And she handled that fantastically.
You've mentioned a couple of times there about Queensland and the Great Square. That is the next option. They've also got a Trotters Oaks and a Trotters Derby up there as well. What do you target? Do you just go for the Great Square, or are the Oaks and Derby potentially on the radar?
No, they're all on the radar. It's a little interesting that the main race is the first one of the three, and what will be the toughest race for her of the three. So if she happens to win that one and doesn't come out of it real good, or she knocks her around a little bit, or she earns good money, we can always give the next two a miss. But it's so
three under the bus. Do you know? Is it the Derby then the Oaks?
No, it's the Oaks then the Derby. So it's 8th, 15th, and 22nd of July. The Great Square, it's a great incentive, and it's an awesome concept. I liken it to a little bit like a Cox Plate, where the 3-year-olds finally come out of the Caulfield Guineas and then go and take on the older horses, and it's a little bit like that, where the 3-year-olds, we get a barrier draw advantage.
Because she'll get barrier 1 unless there's another 3-year-old filly that she may, then it'll go between 1 and 2.
Correct, yeah. And then the 3-year-old colts will draw just outside us, and then the 4-year-old mares, and then the 4-year-old colts. So, and when you look back at last year's 3-year-olds, by Jingo's, there's some good horses.
And that's the exciting part. And I know that Joe Pace's horse has already been invited as well. So, Harry Stamper. So, I mean, but I think last year's 4-year-old boys were as good as, like when you're talking about horses like Plymouth Chubb or Harry Stamper, Cravache Dior. He won the horse of the year, and the horse of Emilio's, that Courage Stride as well. Any 4 of those horses any other year, a standout horse of the year. This year they're 1 of 4. It's just amazing the depth.
Credit to the trotting breed, how far it's come in the last 10 years. We're talking about winning races, and even the New South Wales Trotters Oaks, which I think 4 years ago was worth 30,000, and now it's worth 75. So full credit to New South Wales for bumping their money up. But looking forward to the Great Square, you were talking about those, they're all the boys. But then when you had a look at the girls' side of it, you had Egret and Revelstoke, Amandine, Courmayeur. You know, there's some bloody great.
A couple of those trialled last weekend and trialled very, very well as well.
Yeah. So, listen, I'm not saying that we're going to win the race, but she's going to draw barrier 1. She's going to be on the lure. We know we'll mile rate, 57 or 58. And if she does that, she'll be in it at the end. But, a horse like Cravache d'Or or even Revelstoke, they could go up there and go 54.
Yep.
And that's the reality of it.
Flip side of that is too, though, warmer weather. You're saying your mare will run 50. Warmer weather, you never know what she could run up there as well. So.
Correct, yeah. And she has looked after herself the last couple of weeks, and we've sort of looked after her leading up to it. But she's going to have to be really wound up for the first one, and she's going to have to travel to Queensland, do that. So, we've got the Oaks and the Derby straight after that. It'd be nice to have her up for the 3 runs, because if we don't earn money the first one, well, she'll pay for a trip in the next couple. So that's the plan, and... fingers crossed we can just keep her healthy and fit leading through to there.
It's a great carnival, and well done to Queensland. I reckon well done to Menangle as well. And the one thing that I found out when I was working there just not that long ago, because they run heats now of the pacing derbies and Oaks, there's no filly likely to make the derby fields, because the final of the fillies is on the same night of the heats. What happened with you the other night with Rocking with Attitude, and being able to take on the fillies and then go on and take the boys on, the industry needs to be better. Whether they give a golden pass to the filly that wins the Oaks into the Derby final as well, be probably controversial because everyone else is going around in that. I don't know, but putting a filly against the boys or a couple of fillies against the boys, I reckon sensational, and I think that really sparks racing up.
100%. We see the Golden Slipper or the Guineas, the thoroughbreds have been able to do that. They get a weight advantage. But it would be hard if you had a horse like Ladies in Red racing the boys and she got a barrier advantage. She probably would have beaten them without the barrier advantage. I'm
not saying give a barrier advantage, but give them the chance of.
And you're right. And correct me if I'm wrong, the Trotters Oaks is generally on the Friday at Maryborough, and then the...
No, the Trotters Oaks is
on the Sunday?
No, they have a fillies race.
I have a fillies race,
yes, because the fillies have done pretty well out of that. Sugars has won it a few years ago, and even I think last year there was a filly that went very good. No, the fillies can take it. The Oaks has definitely had the season. There's a bracelet, a bracelet that is on the Friday. But you're right. But I think it's awesome. The great that the Trotters do it. I think the paces, we need to keep. You and I have been talking about different ways of changing our industry and all the rest. And I think well done in New South Wales having on 2 weeks in a row. That's the other part though. The build up for the Trotters, it was great. I know everyone was able to then say, right, well, the Oaks were on last week, the Derby's on this week, so people tuned into it, into a state that's not anywhere near as heavily involved with Trotters as what Victoria are, although they are getting better, and so are Queensland. So I think hats off to them.
Well, the guys up there are really putting their money behind the Trotters as well. There's quite a few trainers up there that just train Trotters. The Randos, the Forests, they're just purely specifically, and then you get the Ultron boys that just love babies, so they've always got horses in those races.
Don't forget the Hancocks. D. Hancock, he likes a challenge. He likes these betters to like Trotters.
He likes the betters to like Trotters, and had great success with them too. So, but they had the $100,000 free for all where you saw Queen Alida. Just run off the screen. How good was she? It was amazing to see. And with Just Believe going to Sweden, they're really kicking goals, and it's whether it's the future or not, but in no time it's going to be nearly 50-50 Trotters to paces, and I think the industry is really getting behind the Trotters, which is even better.
Can tell you now, while we're still talking Trotters, Aldebaran Zeus is in going around at Alexandra Park on Friday night. I don't know the barrier draws. It's a standing start, but it's a lead up to the Rowe Cup. And he'll take on Muscle Mountain in the Rowe Cup. Time-honoured race. You've got the Rowe Cup, and then you've got the Elite Lop in the same weekend. So, and we're going to have representatives from Victoria in both of those. So it is very, very exciting. Milesy, thank you. Really appreciate it. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
interesting little stat. Last 3 times you've driven her, she's won a Group 1. It'd be nice if you can get... Well, no, the Great Square won't be a Group 1, but it won't matter. You'll still claim it anyway, won't you?
Oh, I might retire again now.
Well done. And well done to Connections. They had a little bit of heart. Like a lot of the people, unfortunately, they lost their mare, whose name has escaped me, Aldebaran Crescent. She passed away not that much earlier as well. So I think well done to those guys. But they've had a huge year. Didn't look like she was ever going to be able to win a Group 1. And then her last 3 starts, she's won Group 1. So I think well done to the mare and well done to you guys. And hopefully the ride continues, mate.
Thanks, Paulie. Appreciate it.